My mom is a white tiger. My dad is also a white tiger, but I am a small black tiger. My dad was furious. He hung my mom up and whipped her for 3 days and 3 nights. Then he took the neighbor's chimpanzee for 7 days and 7 nights, but still couldn't figure out my bloodline. My dad left home in a fit of rage, abandoning me, my mom, and a tiger cub brother. Only, it seemed to me that this tiger cub brother was a bit foolish. The day I turned 1 month old, Mama Tiger went out to hunt, leaving me and my tiger cub brother, 2 young cubs, playing in the cave. The playful tiger cub brother fumbled his way out of the cave. Unexpectedly, an adult blind bear happened to pass by. As a predator, it naturally wouldn't let go of an opponent's cub. The bear roared and charged towards the tiger cub brother. The tiger cub brother was instantly scared stiff. It was I who rushed out and dragged my tiger cub brother back into the cave. Finally, Mama Tiger rushed back in time, and we met. If my appearance wasn't a tiger's, but my soul was human, perhaps I would have died long ago in this perilous forest. This made me desperately want to have the power to protect myself. At some point, Mama Tiger lay in front of us, exposing her belly. At first, I was very resistant, but when the warm mother's milk flowed into my mouth, a warm current spread throughout my body. I felt myself awaken again. So, when it came to eating, I was much more active than my mischievous tiger cub brother behind me. After several months of growth, I found that I was different from other tigers. Firstly, my appetite was enormous. I always felt like I could never eat my fill. That was the sensation. Mama Tiger looked back, signaling me and my tiger cub brother to stay put. She used the terrain to crawl closer to the deer herd, and within minutes, she was less than 100 meters from the spot. The moment the deer herd let down their guard, Mama Tiger, like a divine transformation, surged forward with powerful explosive force, chasing after them and knocking a deer down with one paw. Her jaws quickly found the right spot, killing it with a single bite. The entire hunt was completed in less than 30 seconds. Mama Tiger dragged the deer in front of us, licked the blood from the corner of her mouth, then stepped back 2 paces and lay down. This was for me and my tiger cub brother to eat first. My tiger cub brother was unaccustomed to the bloody smell and quietly tried to find milk, but Mama Tiger sternly swatted him away with a paw. He whimpered and walked away, his face full of grievance, while I was already feasting with great relish. Still feeling hungry, I bravely walked towards the remaining meat. Mama Tiger simply let out a low growl and turned her head away. Receiving her tacit permission, I ate the deer's entire lower half. At the same time, an even larger warm current rose from my abdomen. I didn't know what this warm current was, but every time it flowed through my body, I felt completely refreshed. Over the next few days, Mama Tiger played with us on the rock wall in front of the cave, training our hunting and self-defense skills in this manner. Life passed by, both leisurely and serious, until one day, the 3 of us mother and cubs returned from hunting and heard a deep, terrifying roar unfolding before us. It was an unfamiliar bear tiger. Mama Tiger immediately tensed up, leaping onto a high spot to observe and simultaneously scout the surrounding, while my tiger cub brother remained rooted to the spot, trembling with fear. Ever since the strange bear tiger appeared, I hadn't slept well for a night, feeling a huge external threat for the first time. Mama Tiger, for the sake of our safety, began patrolling hundreds of kilometers of surrounding territory. This was a very dangerous sign. For several days in a row, Mama Tiger didn't let us follow her out. After several days of patrolling, no trace of the strange bear tiger was found, and only then did Mama Tiger relax and take us out hunting again. Until one day something unusual happened during a hunt, but there were no traces of that strange tiger being injured anywhere around. I knew in my heart that if we, mother and cubs, encountered it, we definitely wouldn't survive. For safety, Mama Tiger had no choice but to lead us towards an unfamiliar mountain forest. Perhaps pressured by that bear tiger, Mama Tiger urged us to keep moving. But the more you fear something, the more likely it is to happen. A loud tiger roar echoed through the forest. Mama Tiger dared not delay, feeling immense pressure in her heart. Very likely it was that unseen bear tiger. All we could do now was to put some distance between us. So, we ran frantically for 2 hours, just bursting out of a dense patch of grass and reaching an open area. Mama Tiger was the first to react. The atmosphere was extremely tense. I hid in the grass, constantly watching the situation, thinking about how to resolve it. The next second, the bear tiger fiercely pounced on Mama Tiger. Mama Tiger, fearless, met it head-on and fought. However, the bear tiger seized an opportunity, and its immense explosive power caused Mama Tiger to instantly lose her balance and fall to the ground. If she moved again, the bear tiger's sharp fangs would bite through her neck. Just as I was about to take my tiger cub brother and make a final escape, a furious roar suddenly came from the forest not far away. It was the cry of another bear tiger. But to Mama Tiger, at this moment, it was incredibly precious. With a series of hurried sounds, an astonishingly large Siberian tiger appeared. It exuded a fierce aura, even stronger and more dominant than the one that had knocked down Mama Tiger. Its entire body surged with an uncontrollable killing intent. It was Papa Tiger. Papa Tiger was furious. How could he tolerate this assailant who had harmed his wife and cubs? The next moment, Papa Tiger's eyes narrowed slightly, and his massive body suddenly exerted force, pouncing like a bolt of lightning towards the strange bear tiger. Watching the two fierce beasts fight to the death, I truly understood the terror of an adult bear tiger. They exchanged blows, both sides sustaining injuries, but Papa Tiger, relying on his weight and experience, gradually gained the upper hand. The strange bear tiger had one eye. It was early summer, with abundant rainfall, and many traditional Chinese herbs were sprouting and growing. It would be great if we could find some aged wild ginseng. Papa Tiger's territory was quite rich in flora and fauna. Soon, he found two small ginseng plants. Mama Tiger ate the ginseng, and her injuries indeed improved. So, Papa Tiger began to take me and my tiger cub brother out to hunt and train. After half a month, I not only became stronger and more robust, but my speed and sense of smell also improved. I could even smell all scents within 30 kilometers. Finally, I began my first solo hunt. Following Papa Tiger's teachings, I chose the best hunting ground, finding a slightly raised small hillock 10 kilometers away from the cave. Here, the view was open, and the grass was tall and dense, making it hard to be discovered. I lay in the grass, waiting. Wave after wave of small animals came and went by the stream. Finally, a group of... I could handle everything except adult wild boars. There were 3 adult wild boars in this group. The first thing to do was to lure them away, while the wild boar herd was letting down their guard and drinking water. I leapt out of the grass. Several adult wild boars reacted the fastest, running off with their piglets. I had already anticipated their escape route. My body sprang from the grass, heading straight for the scattered piglets. One still tried to make a sharp turn and play tricks, but having watched Animal World, how could I be fooled? The moment it turned, I bit down with the momentum, perfectly catching the charging piglet. The smell of blood instantly spread in my mouth. I shook off the dead prey and then went after the others. I had a good harvest. During the pursuit and kill, I could feel changes in all my muscles and bones. They not only became stronger and tougher, but my speed also increased. My reactions were several times faster than other animals. These changes likely came from the mysterious energy within my body. If I could, continuously use this energy to strengthen myself. The alpha wolf could finish it in a few bites, but I wanted to slowly tear and bite at it in front of them. A direct provocation. The alpha wolf was clearly flustered. If it didn't do something, its subordinates might lose heart. It issued a command, and the other gray wolves no longer hesitated. Several female wolves protected their cubs and hid in the distance, while the remaining wolves spread out, surrounding me. A tiger-wolf battle was on the verge of breaking out. My tiger eyes narrowed, and I charged straight towards the alpha wolf. The wolf pack didn't expect me to make the first move. By the time they reacted, the alpha wolf had already been swatted away by my paw. The wolves behind chased after me, biting and tearing at my hindquarters. Several new wounds instantly appeared on my body, which instantly triggered my primal instincts. I caught a gray wolf that was attacking me and bit down hard on its neck. With a snap, I directly broke its neck. I felt a sudden burst of powerful energy within me. My damage instantly increased by an order of magnitude. The wolf pack was terrified. I dropped the gray wolf's corpse from my mouth onto the ground and let out a roaring laugh towards Papa Tiger and Mama Tiger, telling them about my encounter. Siberian tigers are solitary hunters and apex predators. Even the mother who raised us will, without hesitation, drive us away when we reach adulthood. That evening, Papa Tiger and Mama Tiger gradually fell asleep. I quietly walked out of the cave. The next moment, my little tiger cub brother also followed. As we walked, we reached an open patch of grass. Suddenly, a strange cry came from ahead. A ferret was catching a snow rabbit. Logically, a tiger's territory shouldn't have predators like giant crickets and gray wolves, but encountering them repeatedly within a few days, had something changed in the forest. Perhaps it was time to remind Papa Tiger to patrol his territory. Back in the cave, Papa Tiger sniffed what I had brought back. He immediately became furious, shedding his previous laziness and becoming full of domineering presence. He was somewhat impatient to go patrol the territory. I pondered for a moment and followed. My little tiger cub brother, already somewhat tired, also forced himself to follow. Papa Tiger's territory was vast, too large to patrol completely in 10 days or half a month. Watching Papa Tiger walk leisurely, with unhurried steps through the jungle, showed me what true kingly demeanor was. Papa Tiger marked his territory by spraying urine on thick tree trunks, simultaneously warning intruders that this area had an owner. Walking along the edge of the territory like this until afternoon, Papa Tiger also grew somewhat tired. He had just found a shady spot to lie down and rest when a powerful roar suddenly came from ahead. Papa Tiger gazed deeply forward, as if sensing something, and stood up. The next moment, a medium-sized leopard with spotted fur appeared. 6 tiger eyes stared at one leopard. The leopard opposite was clearly flustered, turning to issue a short alarm call behind it. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Leopards are usually social animals. Before long, 5 more arrived. They seemed to think their numbers were enough to scare Papa Tiger, but they underestimated Papa Tiger's determination to protect his territory. They also made a fatal mistake. Never try to provoke a father with cubs, not even for the sake of his image in front of his children. Papa Tiger would never retreat. Papa Tiger didn't actively attack, making the leopards mistakenly think that tigers weren't that formidable. I also clearly saw that Papa Tiger could handle 5 of them without a problem. His delay in attacking was simply because he was worried about us. I immediately let out a tiger roar to the sky, my expression solemn, protecting my tiger cub brother by my side. This change startled the 5 leopards opposite us. They didn't expect this cub to be so fierce. Papa Tiger seemed to understand my meaning. The next moment, his body, like the wind, pounced towards the 5 leopards. Papa Tiger, disregarding everything, seized the leopard closest to him and began to tear at it. Once he entered combat, the oppressive feeling made even me tremble with fear. The 5 leopards were even more terrified. In just one encounter, Papa Tiger swatted. Papa Tiger hesitated for a moment, didn't pursue, and instead walked over to rub against my fur and lick my tiger cub brother's forehead. It was clear that Papa Tiger was very satisfied with my performance. After all, a tiger father has no dog sons. My performance just now made him very pleased. Then, Papa Tiger, carrying the leopard's corpse in his mouth, dashed towards the edge of the territory. He marked it with his urine, the most effective deterrent for intruders. After about 10 minutes, Papa Tiger returned with a swift, almost sword-like gait, and in his mouth there were several more prey with broken necks. It was time to enjoy the spoils. Papa Tiger chose a fat one and began to eat. I took my tiger cub brother and chose a smaller one, Moose. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the figures of the 3 tigers' father and sons seemed to herald the rise of a powerful and young Siberian tiger family. Today's encounter with the 5 young leopards made me better understand the law of the strong ruling. The survival of the fit test. Back in the tiger's den, Papa Tiger carried a sika, deer he had caught on the way. I dug up 20 to 30 cattas of roots and food, piled them in one spot, then lay quietly in the jungle, waiting, having been human in my previous life and now a tiger. Understanding how to use wisdom, this was what made a Siberian tiger truly formidable. Before long, a group of wild boars, led by a boar, timidly approached the bait. They didn't stand on ceremony, grunting and eating. I locked onto a target, quickly approaching in a crouch. When the distance was close enough, I suddenly sprang from my ambush. The adult wild boar, which I was relentlessly chasing, weighing 50 to 60 kg, knew it couldn't outrun me and began to use feints. Its first deceptive move caught me somewhat off guard, and I nearly lost my balance. By the time I adjusted and accelerated again, it had already escaped some distance. According to Siberian tiger habits, such prey should be abandoned, but I had the mysterious energy supporting me and didn't care about physical exertion. With a roar, I accelerated again and chased after it, finally taking down the wild boar after several kilometers. When I returned to the tiger's den, Papa Tiger and Mama Tiger were already asleep. The next day, Papa Tiger lay in the cave and didn't come out to see me off. For him, this was just a small segment in his long tiger life. But as soon as I stepped into Mama Tiger's territory, something happened. There was a row of messy paw prints of her own kind on the ground, a female tiger with 3 cubs. Mama Tiger roamed through the mountain forest, letting out growls, full of killing intent. Her eyes could tolerate nothing else. She only wanted to find the intruder. Although also a female tiger with cubs, Mama Tiger had no mercy. About a dozen kilometers from the cave, she found more tracks left by that female tiger, as well as the corpse of an adult stag. Mama Tiger was extremely enraged. This was like a stranger breaking into your home, not only wantonly messing it up, but also leaving behind a pile of stinking garbage. She walked along, roaring furiously, like a middle-aged woman yelling in the street. As dusk fell, Mama Tiger stopped roaring. She found a high vantage point and quietly observed her surroundings. She pricked up her ears, then suddenly her gaze fixed, and she walked in one direction. Suddenly, I thought I heard a faint tiger cub roar 200 to 300 meters ahead. In the mountain forest, the female tiger was knocked down, and Mama Tiger's jaws bit down hard. Seeing their mother defeated, the 3 cubs hidden behind couldn't help but run out. They rushed to their mother's side, letting out tender tiger roars, trying their best to sound fierce, hoping this would scare Mama Tiger away. Perhaps it was the cubs' actions that shocked Mama Tiger, who had the upper hand, and she didn't continue her attack. All living things have feelings, let alone mothers. After a while, the female tiger lying on the ground regained some strength and tried to support herself with her paws to stand up. Mama Tiger thought she wasn't giving up, and her gaze turned sharp again, preparing to attack once more. But the intruder seemed to know the consequences of resistance and actually lay down under Mama Tiger's gaze. Mama Tiger's expression relaxed. Since the other party had abandoned her kingly dignity, she wouldn't harm her or her cubs, but driving them out of her territory was a certainty. Mama Tiger watched them leave her territory before she relaxed. This scene today made Mama Tiger extremely vigilant. This female tiger who invaded the territory must have either lost her territory in a fight, or her male tiger had met with an accident. Just relying on her alone. At the edge of Mama Tiger's territory, a strong tiger silhouette, full of wildness, appeared. It was Papa Tiger. He had crossed his own territory to visit me and my tiger cub brother. Just as Papa Tiger rubbed against my fur to show affection, I was surprised to find a scar from a claw mark on his chest. This must have been left by another bear tiger. Later, Papa Tiger explained the reason. The territorial tiger adjacent to his land had been killed by another adult bear tiger, which then occupied the territory. That's why earlier there were so many creatures fleeing in panic. I guessed that the invading female tiger earlier might have lost her bear tiger mate and territory, which is why she came to Mama Tiger's area for food. Papa Tiger seemed to have already fought with the newcomer. Now, having made arrangements, he rushed here, clearly worried that fellow would come to trouble us. Finally, he cautioned Mama Tiger about many things, such as what to do if he wasn't around. If she encountered that newcomer, she should escape promptly. Arriving at the edge of Mama Tiger's territory, Papa Tiger patrolled the perimeter and didn't see that formidable opponent. But after crossing a slope, he quickly discovered something abnormal. The corpse of a nearly rotten Siberian tiger cub, seemingly belonging to the female tiger that had invaded earlier. Even powerful Siberian tigers have moments of weakness and helplessness. With one cub dead, that female tiger and her remaining cubs were likely in great danger. Papa Tiger endured the stench and searched nearby. The next moment, an equally majestic figure appeared in the mountain forest 2 kilometers opposite. Just staring at Papa Tiger immediately let out an alarm roar into the distance. That bear tiger had a long scar on its face, stretching from its forehead all the way to its nose. Papa Tiger seemed to have fought with it before. Though he didn't win, he didn't lose either. The territorial tiger opposite looked at our family, then turned away with a cold expression and entered the mountain forest, largely adopting a live and let live attitude. On the way back after patrolling the territory edge, the atmosphere was somewhat somber. Perhaps it was the pressure from the neighboring territorial tiger. Papa Tiger also began to ponder. The original tiger in that territory was an old one, who wouldn't easily conflict with the young Papa Tiger. But now that the owner had changed, the pressure on Mama Tiger's side was even greater. Papa Tiger didn't have many good ideas either. After all, since the other party hadn't directly come to provoke trouble, there was no reason to fight them. Looking down, I was stunned. It was a scrawny little tiger cub, the same one that had intruded into the territory with its mother a few days ago. I didn't know how it had run back again. My tiger cub brother didn't think much. In his eyes, this little tiger cub was an intruder, and he wanted to bite its neck off like Mama Tiger. I quickly stopped my tiger cub brother. Special thoughts suddenly emerged in my mind. I led my tiger cub brother to retreat until we disappeared from the little tiger cub's sight. In a rock-built cave several hundred meters behind the little tiger cub, there was another equally thin white tiger, and beside them lay their dead mother. In less than 2 weeks, the family of the original king of beasts had fallen to this state. I glanced at the surrounding jungle and made a bold decision. I would help these 2 intruder cubs. After all, though I was born a tiger, my soul was fundamentally human. As for whether they would eventually survive, or if Mama Tiger would kill them if she found them, I didn't know what to do or whether to go and tell my parents. However, after returning to the cave, my tiger cub brother didn't complain, but found a corner to sulk alone. If asked, he truly couldn't understand why his brother would help intruders. At dawn, Papa Tiger prepared to leave. He also had his own territory to guard. In the days that followed, I continuously practiced every day, and gradually, I could even successfully hunt some larger animals alone. Combined with the mysterious energy within me, and occasionally consuming a few slices of wild ginseng, my body was already starting to become powerful. In terms of hunting and survival, I felt I still had much to learn. I possessed human wisdom and ways of thinking, as well as the formidable physique of a Siberian tiger. If these two were combined, then a strong and fierce Siberian tiger, always possessing human intelligence, should be able to stand at the pinnacle of this mountain forest. Right. During this period, any food Mama Tiger gave me, including what I caught myself, I would secretly, whenever possible, give to those 2 little cubs. But what gave me a headache was that hunting skills are passed from father to son or mother to cub, and these 2 cubs in front of me would have to learn them sooner or later. It seemed this task would also fall to me. Eating, training, hunting, feeding 2 orphans, these things occupied my daily life. After a period of training and practical experience, my demeanor underwent a drastic change. My physique looked almost as large as Mama Tiger's. It was precisely because of this that I found my treatment getting worse and worse. Not only did Mama Tiger give me less and less food each time she brought it back, but even during hunts, I would occasionally be reprimanded by Mama Tiger, sometimes even with 2 warning roars, very strong in their implication. I understood in my heart that Mama Tiger was already treating me as an adult. After all, as tigers grow, their territorial instincts gradually strengthen. My rapidly increasing appetite during this period made Mama Tiger feel threatened. Although I wasn't yet old enough to leave my mother and live independently, I already had a tendency to compete with my mother for territory and resources. This was also the reason for Mama Tiger's increasingly poor attitude towards me. Perhaps after this winter, I would be mercilessly driven away by Mama Tiger. This was also a natural rule that Siberian tigers had followed for tens of millions of years to maintain survival. Even if I went to Papa Tiger's territory to hunt, I would need his approval. Otherwise, I would be an intruder. Even if I were his own son, Papa Tiger would never show mercy. Calculating the days, it was almost time. I planned to discuss this issue with Papa Tiger this time. After all, perhaps it was the tiger's territory, or perhaps it was fear of my tiger's might, coupled with my near-adult tiger size, that actually made the black bear stop moving. However, I made a big mistake. After intimidating the black bear, I picked up the prey again and continued walking. This behavior, on the contrary, aroused the black bear's curiosity. After all, what tiger would fear a black bear and abandon food in its own territory? Seeing this, The black bear judged that the Siberian tiger in front of it was somewhat fearful, and very likely a newly adult one, faced with such a large amount of meat. The black bear eventually chased after me. I looked back and was stunned. The black bear, which had been hesitant just now, actually stood up and let out a roar towards me, challenging me with a howl. This was a blatant provocation. I was just a newly adult, inexperienced tiger. In its eyes, this was a heaven-sent opportunity. I, too, was not afraid in the slightest. All my muscles instantly burst forth with powerful strength, and I tore at the black bear. Although I bit into the black bear's flank, I also took a slap from it. However, I was not injured, but the pain further stimulated the black bear's nerves, causing its fighting instincts to be fully unleashed. I continuously dodged, while using my advantages to inflict as much damage as possible on the black bear. However, this dark, slippery fellow's defense was simply too high. Next, I disregarded my injuries and adopted a trade injury for injury attack style. The mysterious energy within my body also began to become active. I fought with increasing ferocity, making the black bear somewhat let out. It took me over 2 hours to drag the prey to a flat area. With the replenishment of food, I felt the energy within my body also became much more. This time, I put down the food and didn't leave immediately, planning to test them. If they still harbored hostility towards me, then I might not keep them anymore. I deliberately came with external injuries precisely for this moment. Even if they seized the opportunity to attack me, I could easily deal with them. When the 2 small tiger cubs saw the food at the cave entrance, and me, injured not far away, they directly bypassed the food, came to a halt in front of me, and let out anxious roars. One of them even used its tongue to continuously lick my wounds. Feeling the actions of the 2 little ones, I knew I hadn't fed ungrateful cubs. Then, I pretended to use all my strength to push them towards the food. These 2 simple, foolish, fierce tigers. In the future, when I form a Siberian tiger strong combat team, it will have the possibility of being realized. To cultivate team spirit. Otherwise, given the nature of Siberian tigers, if Mama Tiger knew of their existence, she would absolutely, without hesitation, kill them off. Soon after, Papa Tiger, hidden in the grass, slowly revealed his figure. I thought that if I rashly intruded, I would probably be subjected to a severe beating. After all, I was also a tiger now, posing a certain threat to Papa Tiger. Perhaps it was smelling a familiar scent that made Papa Tiger a bit confused. A small cub unseen for 1 or 2 months had now grown to a size close to an adult tiger. Any father would be a bit bewildered. I clearly saw the vigilance in Papa Tiger's eyes. I couldn't help but sigh. Then, I slowly lowered my head and retreated backward, offering the wild boar I had brought, while also indicating that I had no other intentions. Papa Tiger, Dad walked forward and showed off the prey I brought, his eyes scanning back and forth between the prey and me with some hesitation. I waited quietly, not in a hurry. After all, it's not uncommon among Siberian tigers for a son to challenge his father and claim territory. After a standoff of nearly an hour, Dad Tiger finally made a decision and walked forward a few steps, rubbing against my fur. Then he let out a low growl and, taking the wild boar I had brought, turned and left. Although Dad Tiger's attitude towards me stayed, degree Yaoyu, exclusive, broadcast theater yo-yo television exclusive. At this moment, he was watching me with cold eyes. My body was trembling instinctively, but I forced myself to stop. The blind tiger had been tracking me from behind just now. My tracks, a wave of fear washed over me. If I had been a little slower just now, I might be a corpse right now, facing the blind tiger's death-like coldness. I didn't back down, standing opposite him and meeting his gaze with the same intensity. I silently noted this danger. When I reach adulthood, I will definitely avenge today's grievance. But just as my heart calmed, a new unease suddenly arose. Then an angry tiger's roar came from the mountains. Its direction was exactly where Big Tiger and Second Tiger were hidden earlier. Oh no! My heart leaped. Then I bolted towards the rock cave at top speed. At this moment, in front of the rock cave, the ground was trembling. Standing in front of Mom Tiger, with all his fur bristling, was Little Tiger. No matter how Mom Tiger roared, Little Tiger still stood in front, refusing to move aside. This little fellow remembered my instructions before I left. For the first time, he roared at Mom Tiger. Mom Tiger froze, listening to this not-so-loud tiger's roar. She couldn't believe that the cub she raised would act this way. In her eyes, this was simply a disgrace. So, facing her son's repeated obstruction, Mom Tiger became enraged. She raised her powerful paw and sent little Tiger flying 10 meters away. Mom Tiger approached Big Tiger and Second Tiger step by step. At this critical moment, I arrived just in time and stood opposite Mom Tiger. I immediately let out a warning roar. I didn't want to fight my own mother unless absolutely necessary. But Mom Tiger completely ignored my warning. She opened her mouth and bit my shoulder. I didn't resist Mom Tiger's attack. Perhaps stimulated by the smell of blood, Mom Tiger's originally furious expression gradually softened. After all, a tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. She still cared about the last bit of kinship. It was just that she couldn't understand why her own son would help the offspring of an invader. Mom Tiger's expression kept changing. Finally, she seemed to make a decision. She let out a loud tiger's roar as a final farewell. Then she walked away without looking back. Little Tiger realized something and ran after her, but was kicked away by Mom Tiger again. Seeing this scene, I felt a little lost. My brother and I were mercilessly driven away by our mother. Although I had imagined that one day we would be driven away. I hadn't expected it to come so quickly, but for future plans, I had to protect Big Tiger and Second Tiger. As long as we successfully survive this winter, I will be of this mountain, absolute king of the forest in the future. Perhaps adapting to the tiger coming into view. Spirit, although their size wasn't large, there were many of them. I didn't know where this pack of gray wolves was heading. For the three little ones, cubs, safety, a few gray wolves walked forward a few steps and then suddenly stopped. It seemed they had smelled a scent that terrified them. Their limbs began to uncontrollably tremble. I then knew I couldn't hide anymore. Before the gray wolves could even howl, I launched an attack first. Since I was discovered as a Siberian tiger, I had to take the initiative to attack. The gray wolves immediately let out a series of howls, then quickly banded together to defend themselves. Relying on their numerical advantage, they frequently issued warnings, calls, attempting to scare me away. I let out a loud, deep tiger's roar, except for the alpha wolf, who remained relatively calm. The other gray wolves were somewhat panicked. The alpha wolf bared its teeth, showing no intention of backing down. Unfortunately, this wolf would never have imagined, even in death, that I was a Siberian tiger with a human soul, and would fundamentally not play by the rules. I charged directly into the wolf pack, attacking the alpha wolf. With one paw, I sent the alpha wolf flying. I then stopped my steps. After all, I also didn't want to be surrounded by a pack of gray wolves. Seeing this, the pack of gray wolves no longer dared to stay. They tucked their tails and fled in all directions. The three little cubs waiting on the tree also slid down from the tree trunk. In their eyes, I was even braver than an adult tiger. For some reason, a sense of crisis arose in my heart again. Ever since migrating to this hellish place, I've noticed that the hunters and prey around are all surprisingly numerous. I decided to take the initiative, mimicking my parents' actions, to patrol this small area. Then, to drive away those who compete with me for food, resources, the small and medium-sized predators. I returned to the cave and rested for a while, replenishing my energy. Looking at this territory that wasn't yet mine, a sense of arose in my heart, grand ambition. From now on, I would lay the groundwork for my future path as a king. After taking care of the three little cubs, I officially embarked on the patrol route, although my deterrent power was not as strong as an adult tiger's. Today, however, I intended to drive away those hunters and display my own tiger's might. Doing so might very well annoy my parents, but I didn't care much anymore. Anyway, after this winter, there would be no place for me in this territory. Today, once again, patrolling the territory, I had an unprecedented experience. Perhaps my roar was too loud. It even startled my parents, who were far away in Dad Tiger's territory. Sunnymooning, Dad Tiger seemed to understand my feelings at this moment, and he also let out a roar to vent his displeasure. I didn't take Dad Tiger's warning to heart. After all, I was also his son. As long as I didn't do anything that crossed the line, he wouldn't do anything to me. Besides, Dad Tiger had no time to bother with these things. For him, Breeding was the most important thing. Even when Dad Tiger issued his warning, I had a good idea to retreat. This moment, I somewhat understood why Siberian tigers drive away nearly adult cubs. What a rebellious son. Although my size was already close to an adult tiger's, there were always some animals that weren't afraid. On a small hill not far away, two leopards were squatting together, watching me patrol from afar. After observing carefully for a moment, I quickly recognized that these two leopards in front of me were enemies. Earlier, when Dad Tiger led Little Tiger and me on patrol, he had killed a leopard. It was precisely these two's brother. Perhaps after experiencing the trials of the mountains, the two brothers' aura had become much more restrained. It could also be due to Dad Tiger's deterrence. They didn't immediately rush down to attack me, but I still underestimated their hatred for my family. As dusk fell, I took the three little cubs back to the cave. The jungle didn't know where did these two survivors get the courage to dare challenge my tiger's might. This was a good opportunity to kill the chicken to scare the monkey clearly. The two leopards also recognized me. After all, Dad Tiger had killed their brother, so it was only natural for them to seek revenge on me. A cub, I protected the little cubs behind me. This leopard let out an angry roar, like a king awaiting an enemy's challenge. Although my size was much larger than an average tiger cub's, but the leopard brothers still didn't take me seriously. They stood one on the left and one on the right, forming a siege. Battle was imminent. Many predators in the surrounding mountains were watching. This battle, I had to defeat the leopard brothers with lightning speed to affirm the first step on my path to kingship. Facing the leopard brothers' encirclement, I launched the first attack, and after several months of survival, the leopard brothers cooperated even more tacitly. When I attacked one of them, the other would attack. When I had to turn to defend myself, the other would attack from the other side in the same way. But I wasn't at all sure about the thickness of the fat on my body. Actual extent. Even if bitten once, it wouldn't create a gaping wound on me. But as long as I seized the opportunity to bite any one of them once. For the safety of the three little cubs behind me, I didn't continue to chase them. I believed that today's battle would make those observing predators realize my strength. Now, no predator, except for a true adult tiger, dared to fight me head-on. Having solved the small problem here, I took the three little cubs and continued on my patrol. Just then, I caught a familiar scent in the air. Looking towards the distant hillside, Dad Tiger's figure appeared again. This time, he didn't make any sound towards me. He just watched me from afar with deep and majestic eyes, as if conveying something. Perhaps it was a form of acknowledgement. However, just as I was about to enter Mom Tiger's territory at the edge of the forest, another sound echoed from the forest not far away. Tiger's roar. It was a completely unfamiliar tiger. A few minutes later, another tiger's roar came from another direction in the forest. A second unfamiliar adult tiger. My heart also grew a little more tense and uneasy. At this very moment, a familiar, even deeper roar also sounded in the distance. As if in response, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. With Dad Tiger, this strong adult tiger, holding the fort, other foreign tigers would not dare to intrude upon the territory rashly, unless Dad Tiger lost to the opponent in battle. But this was impossible. In terms of size and strength, Dad Tiger firmly stood among the current batch of adult tigers as the top. After a moment of hesitation, I still decided to continue along the edge of the territory first. One reason was to respect Mom Tiger's territorial rights, and on the other hand, I also wanted to see that newly arrived adult tiger. This should also be a newly adult wanderer, searching everywhere for a territory to claim, or coming to the edge of an occupied territory to let out a roar as a challenge. If the other party didn't respond or showed signs of old age and weakness, then he would directly take advantage of the weakness and enter. If I could see that unfamiliar tiger with my own eyes and assess its strength, I could also plan for the future. The further I walked, the stronger the feeling of unease became. Many times, a tiger's sixth sense is exceptionally accurate. So, I had Little Tiger take Big Tiger and Second Tiger in another direction. I, on the other hand, headed towards where the roar was coming from. Sure enough, after walking less than 2 kilometers, I saw the agile adult tiger through the gaps in the trees. A strong sense of immediately arose in my heart, intense desire to fight. Perhaps sensing something, This tiger looked cautiously in my direction. He even passed by my hiding spot as he walked. The opponent, although newly adult, but in terms of weight, strength, and bite force, he was several points stronger than me at present. At this moment, to rush up and fight with a burst of hot blood was clearly an unwise choice. I suppressed the desire to fight in my heart. Watching him walk past, give me just another half a year, and this forest I will be invincible in. At this moment, I completely failed to notice that my desire to fight was unconsciously growing stronger and stronger. I was becoming less like a human. Mom Tiger had recently been eager to have another litter with Dad Tiger. Therefore, I had been hunting in her territory recently to provide enough for myself and the 3 cubs. On this day, just as I was taking the 3 little cubs to teach them hunting skills, an unusual situation occurred in the area where the territories of 3 Siberian tigers intersected. Roars of tigers swept towards the forest like waves. Anger was mixed in those roars. With my keen hearing, I also heard. I immediately perked up and ran over quickly. I was too excited. I had never seen a scene of territorial dispute like this before. Today was a good chance to join the fun and open my horizons. After running for over 10 kilometers, standing on high ground, I could clearly see the fighting scene. Nearby animals were scared by the terrifying roars and scattered in all directions. One was precisely the newly adult Siberian tiger I had seen before, and the other one was not Dad Tiger. It was precisely the adult tiger that coexisted peacefully with Dad Tiger, sharing the adjacent area. Perhaps the wanderer had seen Dad Tiger. In comparison, he chose to challenge this one, whose strength seemed inferior to Dad Tiger's. Local tiger. The 2 tigers were as thick as humans. They scratched each other's upper bodies with their claws. Soon, both sides were covered in blood. Later, merely using claws was no longer enough to display the 2 tigers began to bite each other. The fighting was ruthless. Among Siberian tigers, this was usually the most brutal and fierce. Both sides almost rarely showed signs of surrender or giving up. Night gradually fell. The 2 tigers had gone through the initial mutual harm. Now they were enduring, who would first lose patience and expose a weakness. Only a fatal blow awaited the one who did. At the same time, they also knew that the surrounding forests were filled with onlookers. Witnessing the other's miserable defeat would also better display their own authority. Although both sides were injured, no hunter underestimated them. Instead, they showed respectful gazes. After about half an hour of endurance, the territorial tiger was the first to succumb to physical exhaustion. Coupled with his front legs, with the tiger's shadow pouncing, the one who had only recently become a territorial tiger was pinned down by the wanderer. There was no suspense. Even though they were both northeastern tigers, he couldn't withstand the bite force of another adult tiger. A victor was born. The recently stabilized territory once again fell to this young tiger. Onto the defeated Siberian tiger before my eyes vividly illustrated the fate of the loser. That's why I had always been patiently accumulating strength. Waiting until I was strong enough, I would embark on my own path to kingship, challenging different territorial tigers along the way and becoming the king of kings. I want to be stronger than Dad Tiger, rule over a more vast forest. Learning from humans, I would become the king of Siberian tigers, defeating them one by one, then granting them territories to obey my commands. As the 3 little cubs grew in size, their appetites also clearly increased. My hunting pressure was also gradually increasing. I must quickly acquire my own territory to meet the needs of us 4 tigers. After leaving Mom Tiger's territory, I was extra cautious, because this area, besides Dad Tiger, also had 2 unfamiliar tigers. If I encountered them, it would definitely be more bad than good. However, what you fear is what happens. Just as I found a temporary resting place, footsteps of an adult tiger came from the forest behind. I didn't know if this adult tiger was the one previously blinded by Dad Tiger. I always felt that the blind tiger harbored ulterior motives. I immediately jumped to a high spot and looked towards the abyss. Sure enough, it was that blind tiger, but his behavior was somewhat abnormal. He was actually carrying an unrotted tiger's head in his mouth. In the direction he was heading was exactly towards Dad Tiger's and that new territorial tiger's territory's edge. My heart was no longer calm. I even felt some worry and fear that what I had previously speculated was slowly turning into reality. Once this tiger's head appeared in Dad Tiger's territory, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, I actually had a terrible thought. Could it be that this blind tiger did it on purpose? In a certain part of the forest in Dad Tiger's territory, one can imagine that once this was discovered by Dad Tiger on patrol, Then the two adjacent, territorial tigers would definitely clash. But I couldn't directly tell Dad Tiger that the blind tiger did it. I absolutely couldn't watch the other party scheme against Dad Tiger. However, just as I was about to enter Dad Tiger's territory, trespassing, an angry tiger's roar came. Oh no! This sound was clearly Dad Tiger's. I must stop Dad Tiger from going to the neighboring territory. But when I arrived at the scene, I knew it was bad. At this moment, Dad Tiger was staring fiercely at that tiger's head. In Dad Tiger's eyes, that young cub from the opposing territory, his beloved, had no manners at all, and even the dignity of a tiger king was not to be violated. From those angry roars, one could tell how furious Dad Tiger was inside. If I rushed forward at this moment, I would very likely become Dad Tiger's first target for venting. After all, the father-son relationship between us was no longer as close as before. Now, I should try to avoid Dad Tiger and that young tiger meeting face to face. However, what surprised me more than this was the blind tiger's cunning and deep scheming. This was already beyond what a Siberian tiger could achieve. Did the other party also possess a human soul like me? At this moment, Dad Tiger was like a powder keg. The fuse was the blind tiger, and the flame was approaching. He was already furious and seized everything. At this moment, the young tiger was patrolling his own forest everywhere. It seemed that Dad Tiger, hearing it from afar, also let out a sound in response. Seeing Dad Tiger stopped in place, I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. At the critical moment, it still had to be Mom Tiger's roar that worked. And Dad Tiger, who was in doubt, saw that it was my voice. His originally relaxed emotions became agitated again. But, unexpectedly, when I rushed to Dad Tiger's side, just as I was about to speak about what had just happened, I was slapped senseless by Dad Tiger's sudden paw. Along with it, a warning roar came from me. Dad Tiger was extremely angry, probably blaming me for imitating Mom Tiger's call. I went forward, also letting out a roar from my mouth, signaling danger ahead to Dad Tiger. But just as I finished expressing the first part, from the depths of the forest on the opposite side, that young tiger appeared. The atmosphere instantly became tense, almost solid, although there was some estrangement between Dad Tiger and me. This was a family matter. When the young tiger approached, Dad Tiger still unhesitatingly shielded me behind him. The two tigers stared at each other like this. The dangerous gleam in their blue tiger eyes grew increasingly intense. My gaze swept across the surrounding forest. My intuition told me that the blind tiger, the schemer, was watching from some corner. A few seconds later, two figures simultaneously accelerated towards me. Dad Tiger was indeed a veteran. Just then, I saw the blind tiger's figure, on a rock 2 kilometers away. He was quietly watching everything happening here. Everything, watching Dad Tiger and the young tiger confront each other. I wanted to stop them, but was also worried that I would make the situation even worse. Dad Tiger had no intention of holding back. He began to look for an opportunity to make the first move. His combat experience was rich, far from what a novice like the young tiger could compare to. Dad Tiger moved, seizing the opportunity. Watching, the young tiger pounced. His figure, soaring through the air, instantly enveloped the young tiger's head like a dark cloud, until he was pinned down by Dad Tiger and bitten firmly on the body. Only then did the young tiger realize Dad Tiger's true terror. The fear in his eyes almost, as he stepped into Dad Tiger's territory. They were in a standoff for a moment. Dad Tiger's teeth left the young tiger's body. Then he let out a deafening roar towards the opponent's ear. This was the strongest deterrence. Dad Tiger also didn't deliver a killing blow to the loser. It seemed to be an unspoken understanding in male combat. The blind tiger had long since, nobody knew when, disappeared, and I didn't know either. Just after Dad Tiger and I had left this place, the blind tiger reappeared silently. He stuck out his tongue and licked, a mouthful of the tiger blood remaining on the ground. He surveyed the area and found that all the scattered blood on the ground belonged to the young tiger. In his calm tiger eyes, a hint of, actually arose, ripple. It was an expression of disdain. He sniffed the fur dad tiger had dropped on the forest floor. The gaze in his only remaining eye grew increasingly cold. In a blink, 3 months passed. During this period, that young tiger occasionally hastily marked the territory edge with urine, the territory, and then ran away. But on this day, after this discovery, I tentatively walked deeper into this area. A range of tens of kilometers. Range, within, this was simply an indiscriminate massacre, targeting all animals. Massacre, all these animals were killed within the last 2 weeks. Killed. But what terrified me most was the familiar scent of the young tiger, and a strange metallic scent, as well as an extremely strong bloody scent. I walked towards the front. Darkness. A faint light came, and I clearly saw the situation inside the tiger's den at this moment. It was a seductive flower, emitting an incredibly bloody scent. At the very top of the flower, a tiny red fruit was emitting an incredibly alluring fragrance. What truly made me feel fear was where this plant had taken root. Countless roots were inserted into the young tiger's flesh and bones. The roots constantly wriggled, drawing nutrients from it to nourish the top. Everything I saw before me was too terrifying. I smelled an alluring fragrance again. My front paw involuntarily took a step forward. Immediately after, all the sights before me changed. Tall buildings, flashing lights, red lights and green wine. Some scenes I had almost forgotten since being reborn as a tiger reappeared. I was afraid and looked down at my body. My originally thick tiger paws had turned into human fingers. From the front, a feeling of familiarity and warmth suddenly came. I wanted to go forward to greet and ask if I knew them, but a sudden flash of unease in my heart made me stop my impending step. Then I felt a heart-wrenching pain. When I opened my eyes again, the scene before me hadn't changed. My body was still a Eastern, and that seductive plant was desperately trying to root itself into my body. It had already broken through the fur at my paw, making contact with the internal blood. Looking up, in the corner of the tiger's den, the young tiger, who could originally still emit faint sounds of pain, had now become a corpse. The tragic state was identical to that of the animals outside the cave. Realizing this, I instinctively used my tiger paw to pull at the plant's roots. Unexpectedly, with one pull, I couldn't break it. Then I bit its root again, tearing and gnawing. My fangs began to crack. Enduring the nausea, I forcefully squeezed my upper and lower jaws, chewing the plant caught in my mouth. Suddenly, a warm sensation arose within my body. Without time to think further, I just wanted to quickly escape this strange and terrifying place. Because a root had pierced my paw, I couldn't shake it off now even if I wanted to. Finally, I simply gave a forceful shake, dragging the entire plant, and ran out of the tiger's den. I suppressed the discomfort in my heart and didn't stop until I ran into Mom Tiger's territory, recalling the feeling of having just swallowed a drop of this seductive plant. I took another bite. The texture of the strange plant suddenly became as hard as stone. And just then, mysterious power surged within me. In an instant, the stiff plant shattered into pieces, as the sweet liquid flowing from the plant's body slid into my belly. The mysterious energy within my body instantly became restless. It was 10 times more active than usual, constantly flowing up and down my entire body. I could clearly feel the changes happening in my body. This thing's body, as liquid, could actually greatly increase the mysterious energy within my body. This feeling of rapidly increasing strength made me indulge in it. And at this moment, that blind tiger quietly came to the tiger's den from earlier. He searched around the tiger's den, and then slowly discovered some clues, the scent of his own kind. Subsequently, the blind tiger slowly tracked the scent. Clearly, the blind tiger's recent disappearance was inseparable from this plant. At this time, I also completely swallowed the plant. This strengthened body not only had a much farther range of perception for its nose and ears, even its speed and strength increased by a significant margin, completely reaching a level where it could easily match ordinary adult male tigers. Even I didn't notice that many unusual changes were happening to my body during the... It seemed to be a purification. A special, strange feeling spread through my body. Slowly, I dared not stay too long in the forest. I bolted towards my resting cave at extreme speed. surge of drunken-like blood energy feeling grew increasingly stronger. Just a few kilometers were intensely magnificent. At this very moment, the blind tiger still chasing from behind saw this scene, but showed no surprise at all. It seemed he had also experienced such changes before. He chased forward another 7 or 8 li. The blind tiger's expression became somewhat complex. At this moment, he confirmed his identity. Standing in the forest, pondering for a moment, he still gave up the idea of continuing to track forward, even though that plant was something he had brought out at the risk of his life. At the same time, his strength had also been greatly enhanced. But right now, he couldn't, after regaining their senses. The 2 little cubs even felt that the crawling. Plant, clearly. I just lifted my paw and gently pressed downwards with force, and my paw sank into the soil by more than 10 centimeters. I was both surprised by the power of my paw. Strength, and equally surprised by the inner sweet spring liquid flowing from this plant. It seemed this liquid had immense benefits for enhancing strength. From the moment I saw this plant, I then intend it was not a simple object or is not a simple item or, perhaps, in the future, with my current physique and greatly increased strength. If I were to rely on this plant as I did before, it would probably be torn to shreds by my teeth and then swallowed. With a soft rustle, the plant instantly softened and changed. Then, under my threat, all its roots quickly embedded themselves above the wild boar's leg bone. I carefully observed its state. Its roots could easily penetrate hard bones and delve deep to absorb the nutrients it needed. Recalling the previous scenes, I also became wary in my heart, wondering if this thing, besides this, had any other tricks. If it appeared in this mountain forest, it would be a disaster for all animals. The 3 little ones didn't understand why their big brother was just lying on the ground. I think this plant absorbs the life essence of other living beings and then condenses it into the top of its head. At this moment, it was gently swaying its slender body with the mountain breeze, looking like a mischievous little spirit. I stepped forward and tossed the dead wild rabbit beside it. Not waiting for my next move, it very consciously moved its roots over. In just 7 or 8 minutes, a 7 to 8 pound wild rabbit was drained of its life essence. It seemed that this life was no different from before. There was food wherever it went. The plant surged for a moment, then its body slightly swayed, somewhat ingratiatingly bowing before me, then extended a root horizontally in front of me. From the root tip of the plant, a drop of needle-eye-sized greenish liquid emerged, suspended in midair. I understood. This drop of greenish liquid was perhaps all of the previous wild rabbit's life essence. However, this time I didn't stick out my tongue to lick it. I glanced at the 3 little ones behind me and called out to little tiger brother. According to his big brother's command, little tiger brother stuck out his tongue. The greenish liquid on the plant's root dripped down, and a rich, fragrant scent instantly filled little tiger brother's mouth, then instantly entered his body, merging into his bloodstream and beginning to flow to other parts of his body. However, after taking a few steps, little tiger brother's body swayed. Before he even reached me, he let out a snort and collapsed to the ground. I nervously went forward to check. His breathing was still steady. He had just temporarily lost consciousness. I relaxed. After secreting this drop of greenish liquid, the plant's body also became somewhat sluggish, as if this was no small burden for it. This time I understood. 1 drop was definitely not its limit. The reason it was so weak was also partly an act for me. I couldn't help but marvel that this thing was less like a plant and more like a plant spirit, even understanding some human social graces, knowing how to feign weakness and disguise, playing the fence-sitter to perfection. If Blind Tiger saw this scene, he might be even more enraged. Why did he provide so much nourishment only to get a few drops of this thing's life essence, and still have to beg Old Man 9 for his charity? I knew what the appearance of this plant meant, and what impact it would have on this mountain forest, but I also understood that this might be a sign of a new world opening. I had to prepare in advance. The sudden changes disrupted my original plans. After closely watching little tiger brother and confirming there were no other life-threatening changes, I relaxed. After waiting for another 2 hours, little tiger brother groggily opened his eyes, somewhat unaccustomed to the process. I didn't have time to observe him carefully before preparing to continue hunting. After that, I continued into the mountains. Although my body had undergone some changes, and the process was painful, the gains were also significant. At least now I could feel the immense reserves of power within my body. If consumed in large quantities or over a long period, it might even break genetic limitations and evolve into another higher form of life. My heart grew even more fervent. I galloped through the mountain forest at an even faster speed, even able to cover 6 or 7 meters in a single leap. After trying it out in the forest, I looked at the basketball-sized pit I made with one paw print, finding my current strength somewhat immeasurable. Moreover, this time's gains were not limited to just increased strength and speed. My sensory abilities like sight and hearing also significantly improved. The all-around enhancement of my physical qualities made me overjoyed. With my current strength, even if I encountered other adult Siberian tigers, I would have the ability to contend with them, or even defeat them. As I thought this, my heart began to worry. My mind even started planning and thinking about how to deal with such a situation. I felt that merely relying on a black bear was feeding. My mind immediately identified it, and it was about 10 kilometers to my front left. I didn't hesitate anymore. I wanted to see if I could defeat a black bear with my current strength. My body trembled as I ran, yet I felt no fear. The black bear let out a painful wail, and the fierce glint in its eyes instantly turned to confusion. Although it hadn't completely lost its will to resist, the elasticity of this tiger's moves instantly broke through its defense. The black bear was scared. It felt it would die if it stayed any longer. Enduring the severe pain, it pushed with all 4 paws and began to flee towards a distant cave. I naturally wouldn't let it escape. After putting power into my limbs and increasing my speed, I easily caught up with the fleeing black bear. Without any fancy moves, I leaped up and pounced on the black bear, then exerted force to pin it down. The black bear struggled to turn, attempting to attack my throat with its claws. One claw swipe passed, but it didn't even touch my tiger fur. I hadn't expected my skin defense to be so strong. What I had worried about earlier was now truly put into action. I didn't hesitate, seizing the opportunity to bite the black bear's throat. The bear's thick neck prevented me from biting through it instantly, but I bit into a part of its throat. I still exerted force up and down, and with one bite, I bit off half of the black bear's neck, killing it instantly. I licked the blood around my mouth, looking at the twitching black bear carcass before me, feeling a bit of satisfaction. With my current strength, killing a black bear was no longer a challenge, even seeming somewhat easy. These were all the benefits brought by that plant. I then understood, bit onto the black bear's paw, and began to drag it out. Turning my head, I glanced at the wild boar that the black bear had hunted. I didn't let it go either. I would bring some of this food back as food for the 3 little ones, and some for the plant as nourishment to refine the greenish life essence. An easy battle displayed and tested my now rapidly increasing strength. If I wished, I now had the strength to challenge an adult male tiger and take over their territory. I also planned to explore the surroundings. If blind tiger was no longer found in the territory previously ruled by the Wanderers, I would consider incorporating that territory into my own rule.